Welcome to OpenFrame, a podcast by Pixie, the place for photographers and other creatives to have inspiring, honest, and uplifting conversations.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on today, Miles Witt Boyer, professional podcaster, amongst other things. Good morning.
Good morning. It's not morning there. It's afternoon in Paris.
Afternoon, 3 p.m. I have my tea, trying to stay awake.
And I have my coffee trying to get awake.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting to me today, Miles. Because you're my new best friend, right?
That's the most American thing you've ever said, actually. But yes, I am your new best friend. Maybe only best friend. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna try to corner the market on this whole thing. So let's go.
That's a big title, Miles. You know, my only best friend is a big title.
Just best friend.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I'm excited to introduce our audience to you today. For the few people who do not know who you are, I don't know why they wouldn't know, because you're named one of the best wedding photographers in the world. So I don't know who's listening and doesn't know Miles, but for the ones who don't, would you be able to give like an introduction? Who are you? Where are you? And how did you come to do what you're doing today?
Wow. I mean, I feel like you just introduced me far better than I possibly could. Yeah. So hi everyone. Honestly, I hope a lot of people don't know who I am that are listening to this. That's better for me. I'm Miles. My company's name is my full name, which is Miles Witt Boyer. That's the name that I shoot under, and that my team shoots under. But I'm Miles. I'm a wedding photographer. I'm based in the U.S. In Arkansas, in like a cool little corner of the Mid-South. And I travel around and shoot weddings. I get to play for a living, but with a lot of intentionality. So yeah, you won't find me in like a wide brimmed hat with a labradoodle. I have to stop saying that though, to be honest, because my wife just bought a sheepadoodle, and so I think I'm getting closer. Yeah, it's happening.
You're definitely getting closer.
I'm gonna have to find a new corner of the market to make fun of now. But anyway, so yeah, that's me. I'm a really intentional, very kind of art driven photographer. I feel like relationship and purpose is something that is like far underappreciated in our industry right now. And so I spend the vast majority of my time speaking to that, teaching and educating and running a community of photographers that we call the Photographic Collective that is really heavily leveraged on that concept of intentionality and just finding purpose, and then understanding that as much positivity as you could possibly pull out of that purpose is what you leave behind as an artist. Like that is your legacy. So
I love that. When you say intentional, you play at weddings, you shoot weddings, but intentionally, what do you mean? How do you define intentional for yourself?
Yeah, I would say that intentionality is it's a character trait. I've actually got on my podcast coming up, I've got an episode where we break down like the 2 pillars of trust, of building trust with somebody, and the way that I break that down is by saying like you have to have strong character and you have to be competent, and if those 2 things are in line, then people will trust what you're saying. And so I think that being intentional is something that that's reflective of character, but it's also is something that's sort of a deep artistic level. It resonates in all of those tag words we like to use, like authenticity and organic, and all of those words that artists use and don't really understand. It comes down to intentionality in pursuit of those things, of being more fascinated with the canvas than you are with your paintbrush. And yeah, so as a wedding photographer, then that comes into everything from my relationship with my clients starting 6 to 18 months before the wedding, and then a very specific set of kind of parameters that I live inside on a wedding day to try and make sure that I'm, um, present over perfect.
Mhm.
So
Beautiful. Thank you.
I don't.
Um,
Thank you. Oh, that got
would-
deep in a hurry. I told you I was willing to go, but we just dove like straight in the deep end.
that's
So
that's what we do. That's what we do. We have
okay.
no time for anything less. But I'd love to know if this is how you always ran your business, or was there a turning point?
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think there's this sort of beautiful kind of maturity that comes with being an artist that most of our industry right now are so success driven or so success hungry that they either never achieve it or they miss it. Like they miss that moment of seeing like that maturity has happened. And so no, I spent a lot of years chasing trends and we were light, bright, and airy before it was popular. We were, like I I just sort of went wherever the wind took me for a long time, and I really assumed that my purpose as a wedding photographer was just to take photos of people getting married. And it's a really shallow way to look at it, but when you look through that lens, then what comes next is the idea of trying to perfect your craft, right? So everything needs to be perfect, and pose needs to be perfect, and your clients need to be more and more beautiful, and they need to be spending more and more money, and you end up down this sort of rabbit hole of artificial elements that didn't play into, or ideally didn't play into, why they were hiring me in the first place. And so I just sort of had this moment several years ago where I realized that the dad that I am and the husband that I am and the friend that I am needs to permeate significantly deeper into my business, and I need to allow people to see me as imperfect and experimental and artistic and um, you know flawed in every possible way. I think the best thing that can happen to a photographer is sort of a crisis of self, where you come through the other side less focused on your art or you know your place in the story, and more focused in the actual story that you're telling and the actual people that are hiring you to do that. Uh, and so yeah, that's where I am. But it's sort of been an ironic series of evolutions there, because I had to go through a lot of vanity to get there. A lot of like winning awards that I thought would solve for insecurities that didn't, or getting sponsors that I thought would make me feel more confident that didn't. And so it came down to me wondering like, all right, so then what's wrong with me? Like what is it that's broken with me? And it's not. I'm just human, and so are my clients. And so now I feel like I have a better take on who they are and how to meet them where they are.
How does that practically, that identity crisis that you just described, which I know as well, and I'm sure so many people listening to this can relate to that. They might have been through it. They might be in it right now. Practically, what did that look like, from what you said before? When you were chasing trends, you were chasing awards or achievements, to and basically like very focused on what are you getting out of this, right? And your style and everything. Practically, what did that change look like into this new you? What did that practically look like in terms of style and how you run things, how you shoot, how you communicate?
I think it's still happening. And so I wouldn't say that there's like a light switch moment. And if a photographer has a light switch moment like that, I would be very cautious. I'd tread very lightly, because I think that's almost more dangerous. Um, yeah, so it's been sort of a slow shift, but it's been one. Here's what I will say: it's been one that I stopped fighting. And so this period of time sort of happened where I sat back and I started to realize like the photography that I loved wasn't the photography that I was showing. or the moments that I captured that I was the most proud of weren't getting the most engagement. Or when I spent time pouring my heart into a caption, it wasn't getting the responses that I wanted it to. And what had to happen is I had to see things through a different lens, which is sort of I guess an ironic way to put it. But what I was doing was shaping who I was or how I was presenting myself for the people that were seeing it. And what I wasn't doing was presenting myself as a confident, excited, service industry professional to the people that were hiring me. And the reason for that is I wasn't proud of myself. I wasn't doing what I needed to do to sort of evolve my own eye. And so there was a shift there where I realized, you know what, hey, my engagement on social media may go down if I'm a little bit more true to who I am. But the people that see those posts and engage with those posts are going to know exactly who they're hiring. And I may spend an incredible number of hours still writing on my blog when most of the industry assumes that blogging is dead. But the people that will invest the time in reading it are people that I want to have conversations with anyway. And and so those little decisions for me to just decide, like I don't need to be in the flashiest, most sought after magazines and awards and sponsored relationships to get where I need to go. What I need to do instead is just sort of settle and focus on the art and allow those relationships to evolve out of some level of authenticity. So that shift has been enormous. And now here I am, realistically, I guess close to 3 years later, with some awards I never thought I would win and some sponsors that I never thought I would be involved in, which is to me a much bigger, winning an award means very little because it's replaced right away. But those relationships are things that are big. And for whatever reason, God help you all for listening. People want to hear what I have to say right now, and so I wake up every morning and give myself this like you can do it pep talk and get after it.
Yeah, but I think that's what happens when we are true to ourselves, when we live in truth. People are drawn to us, right? For even if they cannot name and articulate why and what it is, but people are drawn to free. People are drawn to true, always, and that's when also things come like achievements and awards and relationships. They all come when we start being true to ourselves, and it's so funny when you mentioned that on social media, because it's so frustrating when we like pour everything into our work or into words, into a picture, and it doesn't get as much attention as something that actually doesn't mean that much to us. And we all know this, right? Like we post a photo that is like, we're like, whatever, and people go crazy over it, and then we post something we really 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 adore and connect with, and it's not the same reaction. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating.
And you know what I've realized though is that most of us don't know who we're speaking to. And so we're casting this very wide net, that's a mile wide and an inch deep, just desperately hoping for people to affirm us, or people to
Mhm.
build us up, and we have no idea who it is that we want the most to hear what we have to say.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Good
and
point.
and then when you break that down to people, to people in our industry, when you sort of explain to them that, like, hey, is there any chance, any honest, truthful chance that your ideal client is just doom scrolling on Instagram hoping to find a wedding photographer? That's not happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if you're trying to reach your ideal client, like, you've got to show up on Google, you've got to show up, there's other places to speak to those people. And so if you're looking for affirmation, or you're looking for positivity, or community on social media, it needs to be with people who have something in common with you. And that's the beauty of like building these communities of photographers and creatives and industry professionals, where we can all build each other up. We can all support
Mhm.
each other. But if what you're looking for is professional growth as an artist, then you've got to remember that creativity is courage. It's bravery and it's boldness, and it's not who's first to market. It's who's the last one up at night working. And
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
and those people are putting their lives into speaking directly to the their ideal client, and they're finding them where they are. They're spending days and days in coffee shops making friends, instead of hours and hours double tapping photos on Instagram.
Yeah. I can see you making friends in coffee shops. I can
Yeah,
see.
heck yeah. As long as there's coffee or wine, we can be friends.
I can see you being that person in a coffee shop who just randomly talks to strangers, like, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm just fascinated by people. I love watching humanity happen. I love
Mhm.
I love when something happens to somebody and they try desperately to like look around really quick to make sure nobody saw it. Like they
Mhm.
spill their coffee
Yeah.
down their shirt, and then immediate reaction, instead of cleaning their shirt, is to look around and see, and
Mhm.
it's usually me just making eye contact with them, smiling. You're like, yeah, busted.
Caught it. I saw you.
Yeah, but isn't like come on, isn't aren't those moments, like those little brief moments, tell you more about who you are as an artist, I think,
Yeah.
than a 12-hour wedding day where every 15 minutes is scripted, and I know where I'm going to be. But like those brief moments where humanity just collides, and you're left either embarrassing somebody or giving them space to be human, and laughing with them. Yeah, like that's the good stuff.
Yeah. And artists are usually the ones who pay attention to stuff like that. They are the ones who
Mhm.
observe a bit more than people who maybe are not immersed into that mindset 24/7. We tend to like observe, people, the light, like colors and things that other people just don't see. And so, yeah, you tend to see humanity more, and you tend to connect easier, maybe from other people. Um, you did a really good. You gave me a really good segue before to what I wanted to talk about with you as well. Talking about, the best people are the ones who are still up late at night. And you posted something about that on Instagram. You wrote a post about, I think your son asked you like, why are you the best wedding photographer in the world, or something like that. Um, and uh, who named you the best wedding photographer in the world?
Nobody named me my mom named me the best wedding photographer in the world.
Oh,
Nobody has named me that. I got listed, I very, very flattered, very honored to be listed among a list of incredible,
yeah,
remarkable artists that I probably have no right to be amongst, from the Looks Like Film guys.
yeah.
That's Come on. That and these
Beautiful.
things are, everybody has their own list. So
That is
um,
true, because the word
yeah.
best is tricky, isn't it? It's like what?
Yeah, my mom is the only one that has it right.
Yeah. Mom. Yes, she has it
Mm.
right.
Yep.
That's amazing. And you, I think at the bottom line of that post that you made on Instagram was something like, the best is the person that is willing to work the hardest, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, something to that effect. The conversation was, it was a neat learning moment or teaching moment for me as a dad, and that's why I shared it. Um, my son is he's 9 years old, and he's getting old enough now that he realizes that when we're out and about, people sometimes recognize me, or that my phone rings a lot, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
He's old enough to realize that, for some reason, a lot of people get up and go to work each day. A lot of his friends' parents get up and go to work each day and don't look forward to it.
Mm.
And that's not the life that his dad lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I just had a really neat opportunity to tell him that, I'm not one of the best wedding photographers in the world. I don't think I will ever hold that title in my own head, but I'm willing to work just as hard as whoever that person
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
not not to compete with them,
Mhm.
but to show up for myself and
Yeah.
to wrap the day up every single day. Ben Hartley says this beautifully, but I've heard him say a number of times, he just wants to hit the pillow at the end of every day, proud of who he was.
Yeah. To make yourself proud.
Yeah, and that, whether you are, the Jonas Peterson photographer that's obsessed with storytelling, or you're
Mhm.
fair and you're obsessed with creative composition, or you're me and you're somewhere in between. If you can just wrap the day up realizing that the day was lived hard and fought for, then I think you're pursuing something really beautiful. I think
Mhm.
about that stuff a lot, though. I wonder, like, how many hours a day did Michelangelo work?
Mhm.
Or, you know, how often did Picasso take a mental health day? Which is kind of an ironic statement, but, like, we aspire to be seen as artists, and yet most of us fall very short based simply on our work ethic. We just stop before the art starts.
I mean, I don't know either, to be honest. I don't have like all the answers. I mean, none of us has all the answers. But how do you balance that, that ethic, that working hard, that working as hard as the best person out there and showing up for yourself? How do you balance that with, like, obviously there's a shadow side to that as well, right? To working hard and building a business like yours, for example, where and you might see this as well in your community of photographers, that you work with, and the friends you have, the people you know online. There's so much pressure to do everything nowadays, to be everything, to do it perfectly, to show up online perfectly, to there's so much pressure to do everything, whatever it is, whether that's photos, reels, TikToks, and podcasts, and to do newsletters, and to do workshops, and to speak, and to just show up everywhere and be seen everywhere because this is what the best people do, right? How do you balance that pressure, that how do you balance that showing up with the shadow side of, the maybe not so positive sides of working like that? Or do you not even, does that not phase you?
Yeah, I mean, you just gave me hives thinking about all the things that I have to do the rest of the day. So yes. Um,
I'm very sorry.
no, I'm totally playing with you. Okay. I think the answer, and this is probably, if anything gets into my mind while we interview fast enough, would be this answer.
Mm.
I think motive is everything.
Hmm.
It's not worth much to be the hardest working person in the room if you don't know who or why or what you're working for.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and so at that point, any level of success or notoriety or even financial freedom, there's no security in it,
Hmm.
because you're not able to reverse engineer why you did it.
Hmm.
And so, every decision, every business decision, I would like to say, goes through this litmus test for me, as to simply, like, does it serve my family? Does it serve my community? Um, does it further my my soul, my artistic just need to express? Is it selfish? Is it, like, what is the purpose to this decision?
Hmm.
To why I'm doing this particular action. And it's the reason why I do cut out a lot of things. It's the reason why, and nothing, I suppose, although I struggle saying this with a straight face, but nothing against the photographers that are showing up every day on TikTok, but it won't be me.
Hmm.
And that's not a slant at them. It's just, I don't see what there is to gain from dancing with my camera.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so it allows me to eliminate the noise a little bit and say,
Mm.
I can't only be deep, or I can't only be, like in the weeds where people have to find me and wade through it. But you know what? If I'm gonna do something that's just a silly use of 15 minutes, why wouldn't it be playing soccer in the backyard with my kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Um, why would I invest hours and hours in other people liking my content, if that is hours and hours that I'm taking away from,
Mm.
the family that's just waiting for me to walk out of the office?
Mm.
And so I guess the answer, like the easiest answer then, is we need to understand that there is a difference between being a business owner and being an artist.
Mm.
And as an artist, um, I want to respect that process. I want to give myself grace and give myself space and allow myself to be creative when I'm creative, and to feel inspired, and to chase down new ideas and new dreams, and to pursue relationships with people that I think are beautiful, and for whatever reason often feel isolated because they are at the top, and so many people aspire to be like them, but they're alienated because the market loves to idolize so much.
Yes.
But as a business owner, as a professional, I have to realize that the whole purpose in opening this business wasn't to turn my hobby into a profession. It was to provide for my family.
Mm.
And if it's at the expense of my family, then there is no longer a purpose.
Mm.
So, my wife deserves to have somebody lay in bed and hold hands with her and drink wine. And my kids deserve to have somebody tickle them and read books to them. And they don't need Miles Witt Boyer to walk out of the office. They just need dad to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a lot of purpose, like intentionality in that as well, like in all the ways, all the platforms you could show up or decide to show up or decide not to show up. You do it with intention as well, like with a wide
Yeah.
budget.
But that litmus test allows you to say everything from, hey, this
Mm.
conference is a great opportunity for me to show up for my sponsors and leave an impression on the community. This conference is self-serving. It's just a chance for me to go, sit in Las Vegas and drink with my friends. So I need to pick one,
We
right?
won't name the conference.
I was there. And we had a blast, and actually there was a lot. Like, we did some really powerful things with Fujifilm that week. But
Mm.
this is a workshop opportunity through which I can come alongside 10 artists, and even if only 2 of them absorb what I have to say, I can really like instill some confidence in people. But
Mm.
this workshop is just about me making 40 grand in a weekend.
Mm.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with making 40 grand in a weekend. That's fantastic. But there has to be at what expense? Am I going to miss another soccer game? Am I going to step away from another thing? And so anyway, um, I guess that's how I gauge most of my life at this point. And that's probably where I'm at. I'm 36 and I've got a
Me
beautiful
too.
wife and 2 kids. Are you? Yeah. And so I don't know. I wanna live a life that's just like remarkably full of stories,
Mm.
but I don't want all those stories to just be mine.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot. I think about, what happens when I get old, and all of my stories from, Iceland and Italy and Hong Kong and Taiwan, and all of these stories are just about me.
Hmm.
Or would I rather have a million stories of, eating pizza and ice cream with my family? And,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so
That's so interesting because what you just said, that's the reason why I left destination weddings. Because I felt like those stories, but in a different way. I think maybe we mean the same thing, but I think I just articulated differently because I felt those stories were not about me. I felt like I was immersed in my clients' lives. right, for a weekend, or however long I'm with them, and obviously leading up to the wedding as well. I felt like I was immersed in other people's stories and other people's love stories and other people's lives, and I was missing out on my own. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of, I think we mean the same thing.
Yeah, I think we do. I gave a talk. I'm trying to think of when that was. But I gave a talk not too long ago, and then actually released another podcast on this as well, where
Are you
I
crying?
said
Are we there
I
yet?
am. Yeah, I'm trying. I've got allergies. I am. I'm just feeling very emotional about your journey. Um, no, I gave a podcast episode where I was trying to explain this, and I finally found a way to kind of articulate this.
Yeah.
Where I said every artist in history, all of us, every single one of us, but especially photographers in the last 200 years, have been trying to tell somebody else's story with our images.
Yeah.
And all of us forget that no matter how close we are, no matter how intentional we are about telling that story, no matter what we do, it is our story.
Mhm.
Like, we are telling a third person view of what
Mhm.
was happening in front of
Mhm.
us. And the reason I brought that up was to say, if you want to show up in the most first person possible situation, you need to throw a wide angle lens on, and you got to get closer.
Mhm.
Because you can't sit away from the action and document the action and expect that it's going to bring back up the emotions for the people that are in it. But to your point, I agree with you. I think what we do though often is we get so immersed in desperately trying to feel how our clients are feeling and empathize with their experiences. And we want, when the bride sees her dad for the first time, I want to both feel what the bride is feeling and what dad is feeling, so that my images do both justice.
Mhm.
And often what happens is I walk away completely emotionally exhausted, but none of the feelings were my own.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree with you, but I will say, I think the next step then for our industry currently, the next step then is for photographers to start to understand that those feelings were yours.
Mhm.
You did have them. Your creative outlet is just in that empathy. You're able to feel things that other people feel, and then you're tasked with capturing them in an image, which means that the product that you provide isn't about the photograph. The product that you provide is the service of being present.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's the most American thing I've said today. I'm just kidding. That's the least American thing I've said today. I just felt awkward, and so I said something American.
No, this is so true. So true though. Because it's not about the thing. It's not about the photo, is it? It's not about the product. That is so true.
It never has been, and so that's why I said people focus more on the paintbrush than they do on the canvas.
Yes.
Because in our industry right now, we want to talk through your how many frames per second your camera is, or are you shooting a crop sensor? Are you? And it's an ironic conversation, but it is the reason why I am on the team that I'm on,
Mhm.
because I'm able to tell everybody, like, hey, I have had professional relationships with every major camera manufacturer at some point in my industry, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in my career. But I found Fujifilm before they found me. Like,
Mhm.
I had stumbled into the feeling of, like, being an artist again before they even knew who I was.
Mhm.
And so often we want to get in these situations where we forget that, perfect example, a really close buddy of mine, Jason Vinson. If you were to put me in the exact, and we've done this before actually, but if you were to put me in the exact same situation with him, with the same clients and the same light and the same gear, and even the same setup, even if I had his assistant setting things up in the exact same way, our photography doesn't look alike, not even
Mhm.
close. And when you break that down to most people in the industry, they forget that it's not the order that I press the buttons, or the decisions that I make creatively or the compositions,
Yeah.
it's my experience as a human. It's who I am, and then it's the service that I leave people with on the back end. And like that's what makes us special. So
It is very true.
if you want to fast track, right? But if you want to fast track to success in this industry, and here's the magic bullet. Seriously, here's the secret. If you
Here it
want to
is, guys.
fast track,
Here it is. Listen.
there it is. If you, I mean, and nothing against these guys because they're all friends of mine. Like I love that. I'm such a believer in what Jai Long is doing, and I love what Ben Hartley is doing. But like, if you want to see six figures show up in your business account in the next 30 days, stop trying to get new clients and start taking care of the ones that you have.
Mm.
You know, and I mean, there's the secret. Just love people that are already investing in you instead of trying to dilute every relationship down to how many can I have at a time.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah.
And we get as artists, or in this case, photographers, because we're obviously in this industry, and that's what we've seen, and that's what we know. We get so our identity wrapped up with things that have nothing to do with the main thing. Like we get our identity wrapped up in numbers, in achievements, in titles, in a success formula, like
Mhm.
who's got the secret sauce. When really those are those are not the path to success. And also
Well,
success, to be honest, success is also a matter of definition.
yes, like people don't. I spoke about this in the community that I run on Facebook the other day, where I said, you know, we've got to be clear. I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is, but is this brilliant businessman, and I listen to a lot of his audiobooks and stuff. But he has this fantastic speech that he
Mm.
gave where we have to stop commoditizing the idea of success. Like
Hmm.
there isn't a valuation for success. My success doesn't mean you have less of it.
Yes.
We can both have the exact same amount of success. We can both have different varying amounts of success and them not even affect each other.
Yeah.
And what we have to do is stop using that word when what we really mean is money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Fame.
but money feels, or fame, yeah, but that feels gross, right?
Mhm.
Like it would be so easy for me to say, so passive aggressive and easy for me to say, oh, I hope that I'm a little bit more successful than the photographer that lives down the street.
Yeah.
And it's passive aggressive, but it's not insulting. But it would be completely insulting for me to say, I hope I make more money than they do.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same comment.
Yeah.
It's the exact same statement. And so what we need is more community. We need more people that are willing to say like, and not this cheesy community over competition vibe. We need people to be sacrificial in their communities, to
Mm-hmm.
say, I will allow you to have more success, even if it means that I have to redefine what my success looks like to get you there.
Mm.
And I mean, that's power. And when you do that, oh my gosh, like there's no shortage of weddings, guys, and everybody wants their photos taken. If you're a portrait photographer, there's people will pay.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight tooth and nail with the sweet new photographer down the street because your insecurities get brought up because they're pursuing their passion.
Mm. I read the other day that I mean, everything you read on Instagram is not necessarily true, but I read
No,
that.
I actually didn't know that. Is that I thought that they were fact checking everything these days. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Twitter. Too
That's,
soon?
yeah, not Instagram. In case you didn't
Yeah.
know, now you know.
Okay.
But I read it on Instagram that next year in 2022, apparently there's going to be 2.5 million or million weddings. Like, and that's like the first time since I don't know 1930 something, which is in some ways not surprising because of what happened last year and this year.
Yeah.
So there's no shortage, guys. There's enough for everyone.
But think about how cool that is. So I've seen the same thing. I want to say it's actually 22.5. But anyway, I, I could be way off there as well. How cool is this? Think through this. I mean, my mind immediately went there. That means that in the midst of a global pandemic, when we were all shut down and separated and isolated, imagine just how cool it is, the number of love stories
Yeah.
like that came out of that. And I think, that's being shared around because all the vendors are saying like, "Oh, make sure that you're booking ahead," or, like, "Everybody hold the line, we'll be okay," or "Raise your prices," or but I guess from a service perspective, I sit back and I go, "Oh, how cool is that?"
Yeah.
Like the the world was going through one of the most painful in modern history, one of the most painful experiences any of us have ever seen
Mm.
on a global scale, and still is, by the way. And what has come out of it has been, millions, tens of millions of love stories.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know those people's stories. I want to tell those people's stories.
Yeah, me too. I want to know how they did it because I didn't come out of the pandemic with a love story. So
There's
I'd
still time.
I'd love to know how the heck did you do that, guys?
Somebody
That's
wasn't quarantining correctly. Evidently, a few 10 million people were not isolating correctly.
maybe, yeah, maybe they weren't doing it
Yeah,
correctly.
busted.
That's true. But good for us, good for the wedding photographers, hey. Miles, what is your definition of success? Do you, when you talk about being successful, because you just mentioned it, do you associate that with money?
No, I definitely don't. I've always felt, two kind of absolutes in my mind. I've always felt that money was a byproduct of hard work,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and that great photography is a byproduct of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've always wanted was to be in as close a proximity to both of those things as possible. Like I
Okay.
want to be surrounded by people who are working hard so that I have the motivation to work hard. And I want to be surrounded by people who are focused on building relationships so that I have to build relationships as well. And yeah, so I mean, I think I would define success um, really easily as um, being in that crossroads I mentioned earlier, where your character and your competency kind of collide,
Mm-hmm.
and you can trust yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
and so often what we're looking for is like the outside world to affirm us, or people to build us up, or to give us the likes and the comments and the shares. um but I think when we can quiet our own insecurities, and we can say, like, "Hey, who I am right now is showing up for the people that love me and care about me, but also showing up for the people that trust me to serve and take care of them." Like, that's success. And when you can focus on a version of success that isn't selfish, again, I would say the byproduct is probably what everybody else is is prescribing as success. You
Yeah.
suddenly have the money. It's all there,
Yeah.
and you have the notoriety and you have the relationships, but that wasn't why you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's just a byproduct. It's like the golden circle, Simon Sinek. Do you know that one?
I
Yeah.
don't know. Tell me
Oh,
all about it.
don't. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you don't know Simon Sinek. You will love Simon Sinek, I
Yeah.
promise.
Okay.
His book Start With Why is one of the books that has changed my life and my business. And I've read it
Love
like
it.
5 or 6 times. I've given the book to everyone that came to my workshops. I should get commission. Like I bought stacks and stacks of this book and would give it out to people. It's incredible. And it's all about, leading your business and your life with why, with what is your why, right? And
Yeah,
that your why is not making money. Money is always just a byproduct. But your why comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. So it's
absolutely.
like it's an inside thing. Oh, you will love that.
Yeah, I love that. Because
I've
we
really.
we spoke on Clubhouse. I was leading a room for a while with Igor Demba,
Oh,
and
Igor.
we were, yeah, he's amazing. But we were talking through that idea, and I was saying over and over again, I want to squash this conversation of like find your why, because it's become a hot topic, right? Where it's another one of those like bumper sticker taglines in the wedding industry, where we're like, what is your why? Well, My why is vanilla lattes and labradoodles. Like, but what we were talking about in this group was that question is powerful. It is so powerful. But I think that the next question is probably more powerful. Why does it matter? Like,
Hmm.
if you find your why,
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah.
If you live an entire life of purpose, of serving people, not of asking the bride to walk up and tap the guy on the shoulder and telling him he's supposed to turn to the left and cover up his mouth. And like, if you get past the first two chapters of wedding photography
Mm.
and you dig into the souls of the people that you're documenting, why does that matter? And and for me at least, it comes down to the fact that I don't mind having an entire army. We've shot over 500 weddings now. I don't mind having 500 happy couples. But what
Mhm.
I'm more focused on is having 2,000 grandkids that can look back
Mhm.
at their grandparents'
Mhm.
wedding photos and realize that there was a legacy of love and attention to detail.
Yeah.
Um, and that's so funny because so many people in our industry will use that type of thing as a sales pitch, but
Yeah.
not think through how cool that really is.
Yeah. How far that actually reaches.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely with you, and Simon Sinek is too, by the way, because
Hey, Simon.
it's not a superficial book at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really goes deep. It's not like
Ooh,
why,
I'm gonna look it up.
it's not like why because, well, because I love telling stories. But why do you love telling stories? Why? Like he keeps asking
Yeah.
why until you get to the bottom of it, like where it hurts usually. So it's
Okay.
definitely, it's not an easy thing. And there's a TED talk, I believe it's called The Golden Circle or something, but you can find it.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Totally with you. Because the why is never just because I like telling stories. The why is
Yeah.
always way beyond that. It's way deeper than that. So
I think we often solve a lot of our own insecurities as artists when we just keep asking those questions, though. Yeah, I've got a good friend of mine in this industry who drives me nuts. I think we probably argue more than we get along, and yet I still call him a really good friend. A guy named Chad De Blasio. But the reason for that is because you can't have a conversation with him without him asking you 100 questions, but he never answers the questions back. He just
oh
keeps asking. But what it's taken me years now to understand that what he's doing is just asking you to get on with it, to say what you actually are trying to say, and to stop trying to dilute it or funnel it through like a socially acceptable
yeah,
filter,
yeah.
or stop trying to like stylize or popularize your opinion, and
Mm.
just get to what you're actually saying. And then when you get there, now we actually have a baseline. We've got a benchmark. We found sea level, and so it's like now you know where to climb.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, Miles, I could keep doing this for another hour.
We'll have to do it again then. I feel like every podcast that I'm on, there's always a part two, so I'm
Yeah,
down with that.
yeah. It
I
doesn't
love that.
surprise me. It does not surprise me with certain people. It's just, yeah, there's so much to unpack, and there's always a level deeper that you can go. And I
Mhm.
so appreciate you being open and honest, and very refreshing. In this industry, very refreshing. Thank you so much.
That
I
means a
really
lot, Nadia.
I mean it. I mean it. It's just, it was a joy, like meeting you even when we did a few weeks ago. And I'd love for people to know where they can find you online, where they can connect with you. Um, Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my website is the absolute best wedding photographer in the world.com. Slash, that's what my mom says. Yeah, it's just, guys. My name is Miles Witt Boyer. I mean, everybody knows these days. If you Google that, you'll end up with a lot of different ways to connect with me. It's that on every social media network except for TikTok. Um, and I watch TikTok, but it's more fun after a few glasses of wine.
Yeah, I purely have it to watch other people do funny things.
here's what I will say. Here's what I'll leave with. The most valuable way that people can connect with me, and I would love this. I would genuinely love this, is to write me a DM, whether on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, through my email, and join our Facebook community, because it's a whole room full of intentional people doing intentional things for each other. And I just triggered Siri. Did you hear that?
I heard that. That's fine. You know, she just wanted to pitch.
That's really funny. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, that's probably the most realistic or like practical way to find to connect with me, because I spend a lot of time every single day of the week just checking in on there and making sure that we're we're driving people towards something that they can be proud of, and connecting them with with kind of thought-provoking ideas, as well as like other industry pros. So yep, that's where I'm at.
Beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for the chat, for your time, and for everything you do for the community of photographers. I really, really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to part 2.
Me too, actually, Nadia. This was really fun.